Ethan's parents insisted they come live with them. Ethan's parents had been talking about Ethan and Bella and the kids living with them for a very long time, so they could spend more time with them and to help out. Plus, they wouldn't have to switch schools because they lived not too far away. Bella called the school and told them what had happened. And the school let Cody out early so they could figure out everything. Thankfully, Ethan's parents had extra clothes for each of them so they didn't have to bring clothes when they had spent the night in the past. Ethan and David rode in an ambulance over to the hospital for further medical care. And Bella and Tyler rode in their car. On their way there, one of the nurses was laughing at their pain. Ethan found this disturbing, but was too out of it to be able to react. And at one point, they broke into a complete psycho laughter. Because of David and Tyler's weak immune systems, they were both given breathing treatments. Ethan also had one breathing treatment. He also tore his arm out of socket trying to break the door down, so it had to be put back in place. Then they began heading to their grandparents' house after being discharged. As they were driving, Cody definitely did not let them off easily on the fact that they ruined all of her toys and her clothes and her room were all destroyed because of them. Bella felt like it was all her fault, and David did not know at the time. Deep down inside, he became very strict with himself. Both David and Tyler felt a deep amount of guilt. Ethan saw this on their faces and politely asked Cody to forgive them. He said to Bella that it could have happened to anyone. Ethan was not at all angry at them because he knew they had been going through so many surgeries and having to take all sorts of medications, and that the boys and Bella just wanted to be normal for a while. Before starting another round of treatments for their cancer, that had come back since they were 2. And then they were in remission by age 3, and Bella was under a lot of stress, trying to get everything together for their appointments to the doctor, while also trying to get normal housework done. Ethan then went on to say that they felt really bad, and maybe you should just drop the subject for a little while. Then Tyler said, "But what about David?" "Well, he was over there by the oven, and I didn't hear him move. And then he was next to me in the middle of the room." Confused by this, Bella said, "I don't know, did you move David from the cabinet?" Tyler then said, "Yeah, did you move?" David then said, "I remember falling off the counter and then waking up in the ambulance, people talking to me." There was a long, awkward pause in the car as they thought of this. Bella said it must have been the Lord looking out for you. David said, "Oh, that's nice. Look, he's looking after us even though we did something bad. Oh, and you're supposed to say you're sorry," Tyler said. "Oh, yeah," David replied. "I'm sorry for using the oven without permission. Then Tyler folded his hands and began praying out loud to God about how he was sorry, while David prayed in his heart. Cody then realized that they could have died and said sorry to David and Tyler for being mean. And she prayed in her heart. Later on, they got to their grandparents' house. They got settled in their grandparents' house in a two-bedroom, two-bathroom house. The twins slept in the same room as Bella and Ethan, and Mark and Ellie turned his office into a room for Cody. Things went well, and eventually the twins were in remission. But years later, Cody was 16 and the twins were 13, so 8 years had gone by. It was Bella and Ethan's wedding anniversary. Ellie and Mark insisted that they go on a trip and set up an overnight stay in a fancy hotel off the island. It wasn't too fancy because they didn't have a lot of money, but it was more fancy than most. Ethan and Bella agreed and enjoyed the vacation and their break from their teens drama. On their way back, they stopped by a gas station to get treats for the teens and a few things Ethan's parents had asked for. Later on, they were driving down the road and a girl walked in the middle of the road and caused 3 cars to crash in front of them. They crashed into one, and one more car came and crashed. Everybody was knocked out, but due to an enchantment that was placed on the town, everyone forgot about the town after they published a newspaper article about the huge crash and sent it out to people. But Ellie, Cody, David, and Tyler didn't, and framed the newspaper on the wall next to the other things they were in the news about, including the apartment fire. But because of the enchantment, the news read that they all passed away and did not survive. Even though, unlike everybody else, they remembered the crash in town happening, they only knew this information to be true, and no one who entered their house saw the paper on the wall. David and Tyler didn't know. No one else remembered the crash. No one quite understood why no one remembered the crash, but they didn't bring it up because people made them seem like they were crazy. The twins had a really hard time with their parents' death, even not being able to go to the funeral because they were weak from treatments. It's their 3rd time fighting against cancer, and David's 7th and Tyler's 6th time having surgery to remove tumors. But a month after Bella and Ethan's supposed death, they were in remission from cancer, and their tumor surgeries went well within the next month. David and Tyler moved into Cody's room, and Cody moved into David and Tyler's / Bella and Ethan's room because it was closer to their grandparents' room. Tensions would rise and fall. There were good times and there were bad times, but most of the time everyone got along. But their grandparents couldn't help but notice that it could be better. So when David and Tyler were 16 and Cody was 19, Ellie had been looking for some help for a couple of years, and a friend suggested that they go to a new type of therapy called people exposure therapy. It was run by a museum, which Ellie and Mark found funny, but they gave it a try because they noticed the months and months around when Bella and Ethan died, Cody, Tyler, and David didn't eat enough, and throughout the years it had gotten worse. So they all went to the museum. They signed Cody up, but she didn't like it. But Ellie and Mark said, as long as you are under our roof, you have to follow our rules. They said harshly, in fear of Cody not being in a good place mentally. Cody said fine, and decided that she would use the money she was getting from working at the museum to buy an apartment. The therapist helped them realize that Cody just missed her parents and didn't want to have to talk about it. Then she found that it was actually quite fun to work there. She then decided for herself that she was going to move back to their old town. She got an apartment, said goodbye, and got a different job. The zoo. Leaving her family, and she stopped answering phone calls and didn't come to visit. Back to Ellie and Mark in the hallway. And then Cody cut off all communication. And now the boys will soon be going to college. Mark said that's just a part of how life works. Except we were supposed to have Ethan and Bella come home for the holidays with the kids, and we only get to spend 2 Christmases with them. Other times, the kids were in the hospital, and we spend holidays with Cody. At least we get to see Cody today. That's only if Cody responds and accepts the invite from the twins. Mark says, we can only do our best. You convinced her that we had no problem with her coming over and that we had forgiven her. After all of our friends will be there. Ellie began to laugh. What? Mark said. Ellie says, we have a very large friend group. Mark says, oh yeah. Also, we have the weirdest way of passing the time. Yeah. We better head over there so we can help decorate, Ellie said. On the bus, Lisa got off the bus first to help the twins by guiding them carefully down the stairs of the bus. All 3 of them were off the bus, and then the twins passed the cake to 2 of their friends who walked to work every day, Chris and Taylor. Because the twins weren't supposed to be lifting heavy objects. Behind the twins was Pepper. They walked up to the employees only door, held it open so that Pepper could go in first. Then they walked in and held the door for their 2 friends, Taylor and Chris. But one of their friends, Emily, ran ahead of them with streamers while saying, sorry. Emily was in charge of decorating the basement for the party.